We found an ancient ship, but it only responded to human DNA. The bridge of the UES Odyssey was a place of function over form. It was a testament to humanity's pragmatic approach to deep space exploration. The air was thick with the scent of recycled air, ozone from the humming consoles, and the faint, coppery tang of human sweat. Screens cluttered every available surface, displaying streams of data that painted a picture of the void. But today, every screen was secondary to the main view. It was dominated by an object that had no right to exist. IT had begun an hour ago. Unidentified gravitational anomaly, Captain Pathfinder, Call 9 had announced. His insectoid mandibles clicked with precise, analytical concern. The Kythar Navigator, a being whose entire culture was built on the immutable laws of physics, had run the calculations 3 times. The physics are wrong, Captain. It should not be so massive, yet so stable. The gravity well is deep, but the distortion is clean. Too clean. Captain Eva Rostova had ordered them closer. Now, the anomaly filled the view screen. It was a ship, if such a mundane word could apply. It was a single, monolithic blade of a vessel, 50 kilometers from tip to tail. It was forged from a material that reflected no light. It was a patch of absolute blackness against the star field, a hole in reality. From the engineering console, the crystalline form of quartz vein shimmered with a soft internal light. The silicate's voice was like the slow grinding of stone, patient and ancient. My deep scans register no known elements or alloys. The molecular structure is perfect, flawless. Impossible for a ship of this age. The gravimetric readings suggest it has been adrift for at least 3 million standard years. Yet there is no micrometeoroid pitting, no radiation decay. It is pristine. A whisper of displaced air announced the arrival of Murmur. The Ethel Diplomat, a being of coherent, swirling gas contained within a weak magnetic field, drifted near the ceiling. There is a profound silence emanating from it. It breathed. The ship's translator rendered its tonal language into a chilling sibilance. Not of emptiness, but of patience. Rostova absorbed their reports, her mind racing. Her crew represented some of the finest specialists in their respective fields. They were brought together by the Galactic Council's mandate for mixed species exploration teams. Call 9 saw a logical impossibility. Quartz Vein saw a material paradox. Murmur felt a spiritual dread. Rostova saw the single greatest discovery in galactic history, and she felt an overwhelming, uniquely human urge pulling at her. It was the need to know. It's beautiful, she said. Her voice cut through the tension on the bridge. Pathfinder, Call 9 swiveled his multifaceted eyes toward her. Captain, with respect, it is a violation of known universal laws. It could be a weapon, a trap, a natural phenomenon we cannot comprehend. A cautious approach is warranted. Rostova's lips curved into a faint smile. She respected Call 9's logic, but caution was a luxury. Humanity hadn't clawed its way to the stars by being cautious. They'd done it by being curious, by pushing boundaries, by taking risks that more established races deemed insane. This ship, this impossible, silent vessel, was the ultimate boundary. We didn't come all this way to be timid, Pathfinder, she said. Her gaze was fixed on the unblinking eye of the void. Take us in, slow and steady. I want a closer look. The alien crew exchanged glances. Their respective physiologies expressed a universal sentiment of apprehension. But the human in the command chair had made her decision. The Odyssey began to move, a tiny, functional speck of metal, approaching the sleeping giant that waited in the dark. The docking was a feat of engineering artistry from quartz vein and raw piloting nerve from the Odyssey's helm officer. The connection sealed with a soft, final hiss that seemed impossibly loud in the preceding silence. Rostova led the boarding party. Her pulse rifle was held at a low ready. Behind her were Thorn, Carter, Quartz Vein, and Pathfinder, Call 9. They were a team of specialists about to step into the greatest unknown any of them had ever faced. The airlock of the Vanguard cycled open not with a mechanical groan, but with the silent parting of a seamless wall. The corridor beyond was a chasm of perfect blackness. It swallowed the beams of their shoulder-mounted lamps. As they stepped across the threshold, a collective sense of unease settled over the crew. Captain, Dr. Carter said. His voice was tight with disbelief as he stared at his wrist-mounted diagnostic tool. I'm reading standard atmospheric pressure. The oxygen-nitrogen mix is a near-perfect match for Earth standard. Gravity is 1 g. This is statistically impossible. Rostova felt a chill that had nothing to do with the corridors. Temperature. Coincidence was a luxury she didn't believe in. Thorn, anything on the translator? The linguist tapped the side of his helmet. His expression was a mask of confusion. It's a linguistic black hole. The universal translator isn't picking up a single residual data trace. No language, no symbols, not even the faint electronic hum of a dormant system. It's like the concept of communication doesn't exist here. This was more than just ancient. It was alien in a way that defied their understanding of technology itself. They moved forward as a unit. Their boots made no sound on the strange, yielding floor. The walls were smooth and cold to the touch. They seemed to be molded from a single piece of material that stretched into the oppressive darkness ahead. There were no panels, no conduits, no access hatches. Just smooth, unending surfaces. These corridors, they are not logical. Pathfinder, call 9. Clicked. His navigational sensors were struggling to map the featureless passage. There are no junctions, no maintenance shafts, no discernible purpose to this layout. For Rostova, the initial awe was hardening into suspicion. The human-centric environment felt too convenient, too deliberate. Was it a trap? A honeypot designed to lure them into a false sense of security? Or was it a message she couldn't yet decipher? Stay sharp, she ordered, her voice low. No one touches anything without my direct order. We don't know what this ship is capable of. Her alien crewmates shifted uncomfortably. The air that was perfect for the humans was thin for the Kythar and dense for the silicate. They felt like unwelcome guests in a house that was clearly built for someone else. The silence of the great ship began to feel less like slumber and more like a conscious, unnerving act of exclusion. They were intruders, and the ship knew it. Their search ended after 4 fruitless hours. They found it not by following any logical path, but by taking a turn that hadn't been there on their previous pass. It was a detail that Pathfinder, call 9, was still trying to reconcile with the laws of spacetime. The chamber was immense. It was a perfect circle with a domed ceiling so high their lamps couldn't find it. In the exact center of the room sat a single, curved console of the same featureless, light-absorbing material as the walls. It had no chair, no keyboard, no interface of any kind. It was simply there, an altar to an unknown god. This was the bridge. It had to be. For 3 days, the greatest minds of the US Odyssey threw themselves against the unyielding mystery of the console. They treated it as the ultimate locked room. One by one, they were defeated by it. Pathfinder, call 9, the logician, mapped every square centimeter with his most sensitive scanners. He bombarded it with diagnostic pulses ranging from simple sonic waves to complex quantum resonance frequencies. The ship did not respond. It is inert, the Kythar finally reported. His mandibles clicked in defeat. Logically, this ship should not exist. It has power, but no heat signature. It has gravity, but no discernible generator. My instruments are useless here. Quartzvane, the engineer, attempted a more direct approach. She extended a delicate crystalline filament from her hand, a tool capable of interfacing with any known technology on a molecular level. She tried to find a seam, a port, a single microscopic imperfection through which she could connect. The material is non-conductive and shows no interface ports, she reported. Her voice was a low, grinding hum of frustration. It is a closed system. I cannot connect. Even Murmur, the diplomat whose species could sense the faintest traces of consciousness, was rebuffed. The Ethel expanded its gaseous form, enveloping the console in a cloud of charged particles. It was attempting to create a psionic resonance, a simple greeting on a psychic level. It recoiled as if it had touched a wall of absolute nothingness. Rostova watched it all. The pressure mounted with every failed attempt. The Galactic Council was demanding a report. They had made a discovery that would rewrite history, but they couldn't even prove the ship wasn't just a colossal, inert piece of rock. The irony was suffocating. She was on the verge of admitting defeat, of calling her crew back to the Odyssey with nothing to show but baffling sensor logs and a profound sense of failure. It was Elias Thorne, who finally broke. His academic curiosity, his life's passion for communication, had been worn down to a raw nerve by the ship's oppressive silence. Staring at the blank console that had mocked his every effort, he felt a very human, very unprofessional surge of pure vexation. "This is a tomb," he snarled. The sound echoed unnaturally in the vast chamber. A giant, pointless, perfectly built tomb. He didn't just say it. He roared it, a sudden, primal burst of pure human frustration that echoed in the vast, silent chamber. And with the roar, Elias Thorne slammed his open palm down hard on the unyielding surface of the console. A sharp, previously unseen edge on the console's curve bit into his flesh. It was a small price to pay for the catharsis of the moment. He barely noticed the sting or the single drop of crimson that welled from the cut and smeared across the black, alien surface. "Open up, damn it!" And with that confluence of sound and substance, the specific resonance of his human voice, the unique proteins of his human DNA, the universe changed. A low hum started. It was so deep it was felt in their bones before it was heard. It resonated up from the floor, through the console, and into Thorne's very marrow. The drop of blood on the surface glowed with an intense blue light for a heartbeat, then vanished. Absorbed, lines of the same blue light erupted from the console. They raced across the floor and up the walls, weaving intricate, geometric patterns that pulsed with life. The oppressive darkness of the bridge was banished. It was replaced by a soft, ambient luminescence that seemed to emanate from the very structure of the ship. The crew stumbled back, shielding their eyes. All except Thorne, who stood transfixed, his hand still resting on the now warm surface. The hum resolved into a clear, powerful tone, a chord of immense complexity that settled into a steady, calming thrum. Then, a voice spoke. It was not projected from a speaker, but seemed to resonate from the air itself. It was calm, ageless, and speaking flawless, unaccented English. Biolock and vocal resonance confirmed. "Welcome, inheritors. I am the warden. My long watch is over." The boarding party stared, speechless. Pathfinder Call 9's analytical mind stalled, unable to process the input. Quartz Vein's crystalline structure ceased its shimmering, frozen in a state of pure shock. Rostova found her voice first, forcing the words past a throat gone dry. Who are you?" she stammered. "Who are the inheritors?" The calm voice answered instantly. "I am the guardian of this vessel, the Vanguard. And you?" The voice seemed to focus on Rostova and Thorne, a subtle shift in the resonance. "You are the ones I have waited for. The children of Earth." Pathfinder, Call 9, recovering his composure, stepped forward. He spoke in the crisp, logical clicks of his native tongue, a language refined for precise technical communication. "Identify yourself and your purpose according to Galactic First Contact Protocol 7 Alpha." The warden remained silent. The lights on the walls continued their slow, steady pulse, utterly ignoring the Kyther that Quartz Vein tried next. She emitted a series of complex harmonic tones, the formal greeting of a silicate engineer to an unknown intelligence. Again there was nothing. The warden acted as if she had not made a sound. "Hello," Thorne whispered. His earlier anger was replaced by a profound sense of awe. The warden's voice responded to him immediately. "Hello, Elias Thorne. Your biometrics and vocal patterns are a perfect match to the archive parameters. It is a privilege to awaken for you." Rostova's mind was reeling. She was trying to grasp the staggering implications. This ship, this ancient, powerful entity, wasn't for the galaxy. It wasn't for the brilliant silicates or the logical Kythar or the wise Ethel. It was for them. It was for humanity. The human-centric environment wasn't a coincidence. It was a lock. And in a fit of pique, Elias Thorne had just stumbled upon the key. The soft blue light on the bridge coalesced into three-dimensional images. They hung in the air around the human crew members. One hologram depicted Earth's fiery, chaotic prehistory. Another showed the double helix of human DNA, rotating slowly as specific gene sequences were highlighted. A third displayed the complex, messy tapestry of human civilization, from primitive tribes huddled around fires to sprawling, futuristic cities. "Your species was not created," the warden's voice explained. Its tone was that of a patient educator. It was curated, guided, The Weavers saw in your primal chaos, in your endless cycle of conflict and cooperation, the seeds of the galaxy's last hope. The Weavers? Rostova asked, her voice barely a whisper. The ones who came before. The ones who built this vessel and foresaw the coming dark, the warden clarified. The holographic displays shifted. They now showed the other species present on the bridge. A detailed anatomical model of a Kythar appeared beside Pathfinder, Call 9. The Kythar are masters of logic and spatial reasoning, the finest navigators in the galaxy, the warden stated. But their thinking is rigid, bound by the very logic that makes them so precise. They lack true initiative, the ability to act when a problem has no precedent. Pathfinder, Call 9 made a sharp, agitated clicking sound, but the warden gave no indication it had heard. Its attention turned to Quartz Vein, and a hologram of a complex crystalline lattice materialized beside her. The silicates are brilliant engineers. They build wonders that can last for eons, and their patience is measured in geological time. But they are slow to act, slow to adapt. A crisis that unfolds over years is, to them, an event that passes in the blink of an eye. Quartz Vein remained motionless. Her internal light pulsed slowly. She was not offended. She was processing a statement of fact from a being of unfathomable age. The assessment was, from her perspective, accurate. The Ethel, the warden, continued as a swirling energy pattern appeared next to Murmur, are beings of profound empathy. They are the galaxy's diplomats and peacemakers. But they eschew all forms of conflict, to the point where they cannot comprehend a foe that will not listen to reason. Murmur's gaseous form seemed to contract slightly, a gesture of profound sorrow, but humanity. The holograms now focused entirely on Rostova and Thorn. You are a paradox. You are builders and destroyers. You are tribal, yet capable of immense altruism. You are driven by emotion, yet you created logic and science. Your capacity for illogical, creative leaps in the face of annihilation is your greatest strength. It is a quality the Weavers could nurture, but never replicate. You're saying, our entire evolution was manipulated? Elias Thorne asked. The words felt alien in his own mouth. He was a historian, a chronicler of human choices. The idea that those choices were influenced by some unseen, ancient hand was deeply unsettling. A gentle hand on the rudder, ensuring your vessel reached the proper shore, the warden replied. The Weavers knew they could not face the coming threat themselves. They were peaceful explorers, so they selected a species that could become what they could not. They chose warriors, survivors, guardians. They embedded the key to their technology within your very biology. It is a specific combination of genetic markers, neurological patterns, and vocal frequencies that makes you unique. Only you can awaken and command their fleet. You are the failsafe they left behind. Rostova stared at the image of the human genome. She looked at the highlighted strands of DNA that had set her species apart, that had placed this impossible burden upon their shoulders. This wasn't a discovery. It was an inheritance. And with it came a responsibility so vast it threatened to crush her. She thought of human history, of its glories and its countless, bloody failures. The Weavers had seen hope in that chaos. She prayed they had been right. You were prepared for a purpose, the warden's voice stated. As it spoke, the bridge around them dissolved. The glowing walls went dark. For a terrifying moment, they floated in what seemed to be the absolute void between galaxies. Then, the void lit up with images. They were ghastly, silent holograms of cosmic destruction, playing out on a scale that defied comprehension. This was the memory chamber. They saw a galaxy, vibrant and teeming with light, suddenly begin to darken at one edge. It was not the explosive death of supernovas. It was a creeping, cancerous rot. Star systems winked out of existence, one by one. Planets, once shining with the lights of civilization, became dull, lifeless husks. An entire spiral arm of a galaxy was erased before their eyes, leaving nothing but empty space. It does not conquer. It erases, the warden's voice narrated, devoid of emotion. It learns from every species it assimilates, adding their strengths, their knowledge, and their very matter to its own. It is the ultimate predator, and it is coming. The images shifted, zooming in on one of the doomed worlds. They saw sleek, elegant vessels of a species they didn't recognize fighting. A desperate, futile battle. Their foe was not a fleet in any conventional sense. It was a swarm, a tide of techno-organic ships that moved with a singular, horrifying purpose. They swarmed the defending fleet, latching onto hulls, peeling them open like fruit. They blanketed cities, and the lights below simply went out. My God, Dr. Carter breathed. His medical mind struggled to categorize the horror. It's like a virus that learns. A bacteriophage on a galactic scale. It is worse than a virus, the warden corrected. It thinks. It plans. It remembers every tactic used against it and adapts. It has consumed 3 galaxies. The knowledge of countless civilizations, the technology of thousands of races, all unified into a single, ravenous consciousness. We call it the Silent Blight. Elias Thorne, the historian, felt a wave of nausea. He had studied the fall of empires, the destruction of cultures, but this was something else. This was extinction on a level that left no ruins to study, no records to mourn. They leave nothing behind, he whispered. The Ethel diplomat, murmur, pulsed with a frantic, chaotic energy. It was the embodiment of pure terror. Its entire existence was predicated on the idea of communication, of finding common ground. But this was a force that could not be reasoned with, a hunger that could not be sated. It was the antithesis of everything the Ethel believed in. Rostova's hand instinctively went to the pulse rifle slung over her shoulder. The gesture was absurd. A single soldier raising a weapon against a force that ate galaxies for breakfast. But it was all her training allowed. The weight on her shoulders was no longer abstract. It was a physical presence, cold and crushing. This was what she was meant to fight. Humanity's destiny was to be the shield against the end of all things. The Weavers faced it. The warden continued. The images now showed the graceful, light-filled ships of the precursors in a desperate battle against the encroaching swarm. They fought with technology that would seem like magic to you. But they were peaceful. They did not understand total war. They could not comprehend an enemy that felt no fear, no pity, no remorse. They could not defeat it. So they ran. Rostova asked. No. They prepared a different kind of weapon. A species forged in conflict, honed by millennia of self-inflicted violence. A species whose greatest strength was its ability to stare into the abyss and find a new, unexpected way to fight back. The images faded, leaving them once again on the quiet, softly lit bridge of the Vanguard. They prepared you. A new star chart appeared on the main display. It showed their own galaxy. A scattering of angry red icons blinked ominously at the very edge of the spiral arm. The Blight is here, the warden stated. These are its scout vessels. They are mapping your defenses, tasting your technology, learning your weaknesses. The full swarm will follow. Your war has already begun. You simply did not know it. The terrifying images of the Blight faded. The star chart of their own galaxy returned, now glowing with a soft, hopeful light. As the crew watched, hundreds of new icons began to appear. They ghosted into existence in the deep void between star clusters, hidden in the hearts of nebulae, and sleeping in the orbits of forgotten dwarf stars. Each icon represented a ship the Weavers could not win. A conventional war, the warden's voice explained. Lines of energy connected the icons, forming the shape of a vast, interconnected web. So they laid the groundwork for an unconventional one. They did not build an army. They built a key, and they hid the weapon that it would unlock. A weapon, Rostova breathed, staring at the sheer number of icons lighting up the map. You mean a fleet? This ship is but the first key. There are over 400 vessels in the Guardian fleet, the warden confirmed. The display zoomed in on different icons, showing schematics of the waiting ships. 47 command vessels like the Vanguard, each capable of coordinating a sector-wide defense. 300 Titan-class battlecruisers, the core of your offensive power. Thousands of smaller Sentinel-class ships, fast and lethal, all waiting in dormant, hidden states across the galaxy. The scale of the preparation was beyond comprehension. This wasn't just a contingency plan. It was the single greatest military engineering project in the history of the galaxy, and no one had known it existed. A whole fleet, Elias Thorne said, his voice filled with disbelief. Just for us. It was not a gift, the warden's voice turned somber, correcting him gently. It is a burden. The Weavers did not survive their encounter with the Blight. They sacrificed their own existence, seeding this fleet and guiding your species as their final act. They gave you the tools to fight, but the will to do so must be your own. They gave you a chance. Now, you must prove you are worthy of that sacrifice. The alien members of the crew stared at the map. Their earlier frustration gave way to a new understanding. This wasn't about racial superiority. It was about tailored design. It was a strategic choice made by a species facing its own extinction. Pathfinder, Call 9 processed the tactical genius of the plan. To hide an entire fleet. For millions of years. To create a biological key that would only emerge when technologically capable of space travel. The logic is staggering. It is a strategy of last resort, executed with impossible foresight. Quartz Vein ran a crystalline hand over the holographic image of a battlecruiser. The energy required to build this, to maintain these vessels. In a dormant state for so long. The engineering is a miracle. The Weavers were truly masters. Murmur drifted silently, its form a subdued, melancholy blue. It could sense the truth in the Warden's words. It sensed the immense sorrow of the Weavers' sacrifice and the faint, resilient spark of hope they had placed in the nascent human race. Rostova looked from the map to her human crewmates, then to her alien allies. The divisions between them suddenly seemed insignificant in the face of the Warden's revelation. The Weavers hadn't chosen humanity because they were better, but because they were different. They were the galaxy's wild card, its unpredictable, chaotic, desperate last chance. All these ships, she said to the Warden, they will all awaken to a human voice and DNA? They will, the Warden affirmed. They are waiting for their inheritors. They are waiting for their commanders. They are waiting for humanity to be ready. Rostova straightened her shoulders. The weight of command settled upon her not as a choice, but as an undeniable fact. Then it's time to stop exploring, she said. Her voice rang with newfound authority. And start recruiting. 6 months later, the bridge of the Vanguard was unrecognizable. The once silent chamber now thrummed with the controlled chaos of a fleet command center. Dozens of new consoles, grown from the ship's living metal at the Warden's direction, were manned by human crews in crisp, new uniforms. On the main view screen, 2 more awakened Weaver ships, a sleek, lethal-looking battlecruiser and a smaller, faster Sentinel, held formation. Their black hulls were a stark contrast to the distant nebula they patrolled. The UES Odyssey, looking small and almost primitive by comparison, was docked at a newly materialized mooring point. It served as a ferry for personnel and supplies. Captain Eva Rostova was gone. In her place stood Admiral Eva Rostova. Her face was etched with the weariness of 100 sleepless nights spent staring at star charts and casualty projections. The awe she had once felt was now tempered by the cold iron of command. Admiral Elias Thorne reported from the communications hub. His linguist's uniform now bore the insignia of a senior strategy officer. The council is on the priority channel. Again. Rostova sighed. It was their 3rd call this week. Put him through, Elias. A towering hologram of Counselor Vorel, a reptilian dignitary from one of the council's founding species, shimmered into existence. His frills were flared in a display of agitation. Admiral Rostova. He began without preamble. His translated voice was sharp. Your species continues to act unilaterally. You have activated 17 of these Weaver vessels without council oversight. You are training thousands of your people for war. You expect the galaxy to simply cede military command to a species we still consider junior. Rostova met his gaze without flinching. With all due respect, Counselor, the Blight doesn't care about seniority. It doesn't care about your council's protocols or our junior status. It only cares about consumption. She gestured to a tactical display showing the relentless advance of the red icons representing the Blight's scout fleet. We have the tools to fight this threat. Your fleets, for all their power, do not. I have sent you the Warden's data logs. The simulations are clear. Your energy shields cannot repel their corrosive weaponry. Your targeting systems cannot track their phased state. The choice is yours, Counselor. You can work with us, or you can be assimilated with the rest of us. Vorel's reptilian features contorted in frustration. This is blackmail. This is reality, Rostova countered. Her voice dropped to a cold, hard tone. Humanity is mobilizing. We are activating every ship we can find and training every soldier who volunteers. You can either be our allies in this fight, or you can be the political squabble that distracts us while the galaxy burns. Choose. The hologram vanished with a hiss of static. Rostova rubbed the bridge of her nose. The momentary flash of iron gave way to a deep, profound exhaustion. Well, Thorn commented dryly. I believe that falls under the heading of successful diplomatic outreach. He'll bring the council around, Rostova said, more to convince herself than him. They're politicians. They'll posture and protest, but in the end, they're pragmatists. They fear the blight more than they fear us. She looked past him to the dozens of new recruits working at the consoles. They were young, most of them. They were pulled from civilian lives on Earth and the colonies. Their faces were a mixture of fierce determination and barely concealed fear. They had volunteered to fight a war against a cosmic horror on ships they were only just learning to command. They did this all because their DNA made them the galaxy's last hope. The weight of their trust, of their lives, was a physical thing. She hated the politics, the endless calls and threats and negotiations. She yearned for the simpler days of being an explorer. But that captain was gone, and this admiral had a war to prepare for. To escape the crushing weight of her new command, Rostova took to walking the vast corridors of the Vanguard. She wanted to see how her old crew, the ones who had shared in the initial shock and discovery, were adapting. What she found gave her a sliver of hope in the sea of grim projections. She found Pathfinder, Call 9 in the stellar cartography bay. It was a chamber where the walls displayed a living, three-dimensional map of the galaxy. The Kaithar was no longer just a navigator. He was the chief strategic planner for the Guardian fleet. He stood before the immense star map, surrounded by a dozen other alien specialists. They were beings of logic and precision from species known for their mathematical prowess. They plotted the Blight's advance, calculated fleet jump points, and charted supply routes with a detached, logical brilliance that was breathtaking to behold. Admiral, Call 9 acknowledged her presence with a slight dip of his antennae. He gestured to the map, where vectors of attack and retreat were overlaid with complex probability models. We have analyzed the Blight's consumption patterns based on the Warden's data. They are efficient, but they are also predictable. They follow the path of least gravitational resistance. We can use this. We can set traps. You've found a new purpose, Pathfinder, Rostova observed. The Kaithar's mandibles clicked thoughtfully. Your human unpredictability makes you effective commanders. Your willingness to gamble, to act on instinct, is a tactical asset we cannot replicate. Our Kaithar logic, however, makes us effective planners. The synergy, he paused as if the word tasted strange, is acceptable. Next, she visited the main engineering deck. It was a cavernous space where the ship's heart pulsed with a soft, blue light. Here, human engineers worked with a frantic energy, trying to grasp technology millions of years beyond them. And at the center of it all was quartz vein. The silicate was connected to the primary power conduit via her own crystalline filaments. Her body glowed with the energy flowing through her. She was not just studying the ship. She was communing with it. Her immense, geological patience was perfectly suited to the task of understanding systems that had been dormant for eons. This technology is a marvel, Admiral, she hummed. Her voice resonated through the deck plates. The weavers did not build with circuits and wires. They grew their ships, weaving space-time itself into the structure. It will take my people centuries to fully comprehend their methods. We will assist. Rostova saw the truth in it. Humans could learn to operate the controls, but only a being like Quartz Vein could truly understand the soul of the machine. Finally, she sought out Murmur. She found the Ethel not on the bridge, but in a quiet communications suite. Its gaseous form was interacting with a dozen holographic screens. Each screen showed the face of a different alien leader. Their expressions ranged from fearful to hostile. Murmur was now the head of the Alliance Diplomatic Corps, a role only an Ethel could fill. It couldn't command a ship or fix an engine, but it could soothe the fears of a terrified galaxy. It could build bridges of trust where human bluntness or Kaithar logic would fail. It could translate the terrifying reality of their situation into a call for unity that other species could accept. Rostova watched for a moment, unseen, as Murmur calmed a panicked avian ambassador. Its voice was a gentle, empathetic wave of reassurance. They had all found their place in this new war. The warden's assessment had been correct. Their species' core traits were limitations in some contexts, but in this new alliance, they had become indispensable strengths. Humanity was the key that started the engine, but the Kythar charted the course, the Silicates maintained the systems, and the Ethel convinced everyone to travel together. Victory, she realized, would not be a human achievement. It would be a galactic one. The bridge of the Vanguard was the calm heart of a gathering storm. Through the main view screen, the assembled armada stretched for thousands of kilometers. It was a sight that would have been unimaginable just 1 year ago. The obsidian blades of the 40 active Weaver ships formed the fleet's core, their human crews running final system checks. Flanking them were the varied vessels of the new Galactic Alliance. There were sleek Kythar cruisers, massive silicate forged ships, and elegant Ethel diplomatic vessels retrofitted for support roles. It was a fleet born of desperation and forged in a new, fragile trust. Admiral Rostova stood before the view screen, her hands clasped behind her back. Every ship, every crew, every soul in that fleet was her responsibility. The weight was constant, but she had learned to bear it. They were as ready as they could be. The warden's voice, when it came, cut through the quiet hum of the bridge. With chilling finality, Admiral, long-range sensors detect a significant acceleration in the Blight's advance. They have detected our fleet's activation. Their scout vessels are no longer exploring. They are converging. Time to first contact is now estimated at 1 standard year. A wave of absolute silence washed over the bridge. 1 year. Their preparations had been based on a 4-year timeline. The frantic mobilization, the sleepless nights, the political battles, all of it was now compressed into a desperate, final sprint. Rostova saw Elias Thorne's knuckles turn white where he gripped his console. She saw Pathfinder Call 9's analytical mind freeze for a single, horrified second. The future was no longer a distant threat. It was a rapidly approaching tidal wave. Rostova took a slow, deliberate breath. She let the shock pass through her and harden into resolve. She turned to Thorne. Open a channel to the entire fleet. She commanded. Her voice was steady and clear. All ships, all species. Her image appeared on the command screens of over 500 vessels. She looked out at the faces of humans and aliens alike, at the nervous recruits and the hardened veterans, and she spoke. For our entire history, she began, her voice resonating with quiet power. We humans looked to the stars and asked if we were alone. Today we have our answer. We are not. We are part of a galactic family, and that family is in danger. She paused, letting the words sink in. We did not ask for this burden. We did not ask to be the inheritors of a war. That began before our world was even formed. But we are here now. We are who we are, and we will not shy away from it. Her gaze swept across the fleet, a silent promise to every ship. Look around you. Look at the vessels of your neighbors. Look at the faces of species you once called strangers. Today we are all one. Today we have one purpose. We must stand between the coming dark and the light of home. She leaned forward. Her eyes burned with an intensity that reached every corner of the fleet. The enemy is coming. They are strong. They are relentless. They believe we will break. They believe we will scatter. They have consumed 1,000 civilizations that did just that. But they have never faced us. Not us, together. As she spoke, the ships of the fleet began to move. In a maneuver that had been practiced for weeks, they shifted from their separate squadron formations into a single, integrated battle line. Kythar cruisers took point, their logical precision guiding the formation. Massive silicate ships formed a defensive wall, their powerful shields interlocking. And at the heart of it all, the human-commanded Weaver ships took their positions. They were the terrible and beautiful weapons of a bygone age, now ready to be wielded anew. To the Weavers who gave us this chance, Rostova's voice rang out, a clarion call against the encroaching silence. To the allies who stand with us now, and to the generations who will come after, we will hold the line. We are humanity. We are the guardians. The channel closed. Rostova turned back to the view screen, watching as the greatest fleet in galactic history took its final shape. The fear was gone, burned away by the fires of purpose. She was an admiral. She was a human. She was a guardian of the void, and her long watch was just beginning.